In Defense of Redfall, I know, said nobody ever. It's been 2 years since Redfall came out, or as some critics have lovingly labeled it, Deadfall. Now that we've seen a lot of what PlayStation has to offer, a lot of what Game Pass has to offer, and what Nintendo's offering with the Switch 2, I'd like to kind of look back and take a rebuttal on Redfall. Redfall at its core is a first-person shooter that feels a lot like Call of Duty's mechanics. It kind of has a vampire twist. You stake the hearts of the vampires in order to kill them, and it is fun and addicting. I actually thought the gameplay mechanics were solid, but the critics disagreed. In fact, this was called the worst game of 2023, and when you look back at some of the gaming failures like Concord or Babylon's Fall, or even some of Microsoft's own titles, Redfall really isn't that bad. My least favorite part of the game was actually the key collecting. The reviews never even spoke about this. You would have to collect keys using your flashlight, kind of like in Doom 3, but it was just challenging to find the tiny little things you had to find, the artifacts, the teddy bears, the keys, in order to progress the storyline. The game is not a live service. I mean, that's a good thing. There is very little multiplayer or microtransactions at all. In order to play a multiplayer game with someone, you have to manually invite them privately. Like, there's only private matchmaking. That is not a live service, folks. Super Mario Wonder is more of a live service than Redfall, okay? Super Mario Wonder is more of a live service than this game is, okay? Even though you heard the review say it's lame, you gotta give this game a chance in your plain old Jane life, because you know you will never have a wife, so you might as well play Game Pass all night and even give Redfall a chance. Everybody gave it the lance, straight through the heart, like a vampire staked in the dark. They told us, play perfect art. Play perfect art. Now, when it pertains to things like playability, it's very much like Borderlands that feels like Call of Duty. You're shooting enemies that have health bars over their head like Borderlands, using a variety of weapons that you find in the environment, several of which there are many within the game's 2 big giant maps. And there was supposed to be more planned, but they canceled all the DLC. Therefore, it's just its own complete single or multiplayer experience. You go around these maps looking for other objectives, of which there are many. There's plenty to do to keep you entertained. And now that we've had a taste of Game Pass 2025, it feels kind of like the same addictive kind of style as Avowed or, other Microsoft titles. Beyond Midnight, or South of Midnight, sorry. That is just, it's crazy to think that all these different studios kind of follow the same formula. And I'm not saying Redfall invented it, but Redfall kind of started this trend, and if the game was so bad, why do so many games follow this copycat formula? Now let me explain. Finding things, doing objectives, getting to the next area, that's not something Redfall invented, but the feel of it, looking at your map, this big giant open world, going to the next area, unlocking the next open world, it feels a lot like what I'm experiencing in Avowed, even though they're 2 completely different games. Redfall also gives you 4 characters to choose from. They all feel different, and when you play multiplayer with people, you're actually getting different experiences based on the character. I felt like Borderlands, they were the same characters minus their special move, but in Redfall, even the weapons that the characters use are a little bit different from each other, because you don't want the gunner to use a sniper rifle, though you can. You don't want the sniper to use regular melee, though you can. And even the melee in this game feels good. I'm a sucker for good melee combat. Being the only guy down the street with my feet and my head full of lyrical feats, I'm about to do a Redfall review. Nobody else is doing that in the Hamilton view. Gonna defend the game that was called in 2023 really lame. And you know what? It ain't so bad. But here I am, I'm a common Chad. And I'm glad that I zip up my jacket. I tell them to flack it, but that I'm in it, the straight jacket. I'm crazy for liking this game, Mac. It is something that I'll play again, and I'll tell you even to recommend your friends. The other thing that I look at when I play a game is if it's worth beating. I mean, so many games we play are just kind of, I don't know, there's so many of them that it's hard to choose the one. But when you find a game that you really like and you complete it, it's a really special feeling. And maybe I'm a little nostalgic, it's been a couple years, or maybe it's just because I beat Redfall, but I actually had a lot of fun beating it, that I put it on a harder difficulty to play it. And it's one of those games that rewards you for playing on a harder difficulty. Kind of like Borderlands or any modern RPG with better weapons, Diablo-like, if you will. There's better weapons and more experience points and more incentive to play the game on hard. So if you were to maybe beat this game and utilize the same character you've been playing and play it on a harder difficulty, you can continue that character. That's a lot of fun, folks. But most of all with Redfall, as we've seen Microsoft shutter the studio once the reviews came out. Maybe the downloads weren't good. I'm sure the game didn't sell very well. All the bad publicity. And what do we have left? No Arkane Studios. I know Redfall wasn't a game that anyone asked for, but they were trying something different. And because of its failure, I feel like companies within Microsoft are just going to stick to what kind of made them famous to begin with, rather than trying something different. So even though a lot of people didn't like it, I had a lot of fun that I played the game 1.5 playthroughs through, and I really enjoyed it. It is hard. Redfall is not an easy game. It had frustrated me and brought me to the brink of salvation, but I stuck with it, and I was rewarded with a flawed but decent title that back in the day would have been potentially a rental with the option to buy, but now we only have the option to download or buy. It's a solid 7 out of 10, honestly. If you think I'm crazy, go ahead. But if you haven't played Redfall and you've only seen the reviews, honestly, it's on Game Pass still. Give it a chance, because it's really, compared to what we've seen and what we're going to see in gaming, and some games are going to come out disappointing, some games are going to come out great, but compared to what we've seen and what we're going to see, Redfall really isn't that bad, hence the 7 out of 10. And with a little more time in the oven, it could have been a solid 8. That's my take on it. What do you think? Was Redfall's execution overly executed, or did it deserve to rot away in the video game abyss where the likes of X-Men, Destiny, and Night Trap are procured? Thank you very much for watching me. Hit the like and subscribe. Also check me out on kick.com and twitch.tv/ChadHoganLive for all my live streaming. Happy anniversary, Redfall. The corporate politics weren't your fault. You tried your best.